Hello, everybody. My name is Bobby Makar. I am the manager of APTV for Alternative Press, and today we're going to be chatting with Will Gould from the band Creeper. Will, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Bobby. I'm in Manchester, in England at the moment. I'm locked down like everybody else, but as I said, we're kind of making the best of it, really. There's like a lot of things we can be doing while we're in this position, so try not to get too bummed out and trying to stay positive, you know?
As a band who premeditatively took a year off and you went away for a year, you completely ghosts for a solid year, how frustrating is it to you that you don't have any control over this? Like, this is something that was just completely thwarted your plans, especially during a pivotal time in Creeper.
It's it's kind of like a divine comedy almost, that you take a year off and you plan all this stuff so far in advance, and the world gets in the way in the end. So Creeper's a band that's always kind of dealt with situations where we have limited tools and limited time quite well. So we're trying to make the best of this period of time to write and to build things and to do social interaction with our fans. And the important thing to remember is that every band is in the same position, whether they're putting a record out or not. Boston Manor have a record coming out in a week's time, you know. So we're all in the same boat. So it makes me feel good to know that we're all kind of in it together. And as frustrating as it gets, sometimes there are days where I'm like, oh my god, I just want to be playing shows. We're supposed to be on tour right now. But like, for the most part, I just kind of get on with it. And Creeper's good at that. It's we in the period of time since we've been in quarantine, we've launched a video game. We've launched we did a movie club with people. Hannah's made piano covers of all of our songs, and so yeah, it's been a really productive time for us in some ways. So yeah, it's frustrating one day and then all right the next, you know.
Absolutely. You did the Angel Blood hot sauce?
Yes, yeah. This now on Friday, yeah. So back in the day when we first started touring in punk bands and DIY bands and things, we met Luke from back then, and he's been my friend ever since. And when I moved to Manchester, I get to see him all the time now. And he started this hot sauce company. He plays in a great band over here called Pine, and another band called Kirsty's Metal Hands, which is the sickest band name ever. And it's a combination of them and this band Conjurer from over here as well. Very good bands, you should check them out. Then he came to us and asked us to do something with him, and I just thought it sounded like loads of fun and something to try and another kind of avenue to use something creative. And Angel Blood was a really cool name for it, and yeah, it's been like another really fun kind of string to the bow, you know. Never made food product before.
When I saw that, I was so stoked because I love hot sauce, I love Creeper, I love goth things in general, and then it was sold out like immediately. So will there be return of the Angel Blood?
If that's the thing, is like it was hard to know how much to do with it, you know, because like how I love hot sauce too. We have like an addiction to condiments in my house here. Anyways, in general, we go through so much stuff. But so I didn't know how it was going to do, but it sold out. Luke texted me the day, and he was like, in 30 minutes, all of his website was gone. Like, and then within an hour, the whole lot of the label had some as well. Still gone. So it's, you know, unprecedented, really. So yeah, perhaps we'll have to do something else. I don't know. I had an idea the other day about maybe doing a one for our previous record, which is not really like us. We normally, when we're done with a thing, we're done with it and we're moving on. But I kind of thought like it would be nice to have the two bottles to line up next to each other. We're one for each album. I don't know. We'll have to see. It's so silly, isn't it?
No, I love it. That's so cool. A Creeper hot sauce collection would be fantastic. But I really think what you guys need to do, action figures. Like the Misfits had action figures. MCR had the Revenge era action figures. We need Creeper action figures. You could do it for like the Callous Heart Gang. You could do that whole series. You could do the Fugitives of Heaven. You could do every era of Creeper as action figures.
I would love action figures so much. I'm a massive action figure fan myself. I had loads when I was a kid, and I still got a load now. Yeah, that was something we thought about doing on our last record. We had these the people from our narrative, the characters. So we had the Stranger and James Scythe and Madeline. So yeah, like we thought about having those as action figures, but we never got around to doing it. I had this other idea about doing like trading cards. You know, like so, like you could trade like the limited packs, and they'd span the entire Creeper kind of canon. So you'd have it from all the different records, and you could trade and have fun with them. And there were little Easter eggs in there for like people who are the hardcore fans and things. So I love that idea because that just reminds me of being a kid and that kind of collecting and you know, hoarding stuff is something I'm really bad for as well. So yeah, I think that'll be really fun.
You mentioned that when your band does something, you move on from it. And you very much did that like 2 years ago at this point. So you did do that, but will we receive a return of the Callous Heart Gang at any point, or the Stranger, or James Scythe? Is the Callous Heart Gang coming back? Because that symbol, I remember the first time I saw that symbol, and it was the same reaction to me internally, like the first time I saw Alkaline Trio's Heart Skull, or like the Fiend Skull from Misfits. Like that is such an incredibly iconic symbol, and to just not ever do anything with it again, it's a tragedy, Will Gould. It's a real
It's hard for me because I feel very attached to these things too, because, you know, like most of the time I'm the one who's come up with it. So it's, it feels like a big part of my life too. But I feel like it's important sometimes with art to make sure that it's contextualized in a place and time where it fits. And for that moment in time when we came over and we were hanging out and we were doing things in America and all of that time, that represents all of that to me. But like there's always a temptation to do like a Meatloaf, you know, Battle of Hell 2, Back into Hell, you know, like there's always a temptation to do a sequel. But I think I'd have to really, really feel like it was necessary, because I've got so many ideas all the time, fun things that I want to explore and sounds and things, that there's no time to be like looking backwards. We always just got to keep moving on to the next one and the next one and the next one, whatever we're doing next. So yeah, I like as much as I do like the idea, bringing back those characters, bringing them back to life. I think it had to be the right period of time. It had to be the right thing. I had to be persuaded just at the right time.
I will.
But it was funny when we lost that symbol. I told the record label that we were going to kind of completely rebrand and completely do something different, and they really didn't want us to do it at the time. But they worked out great in the end. But it takes some doing, because they're the same thing. Like it had been so successful, and when you go to festivals and things, you could see the patches everywhere you went. So like it was a really nice moment in time. But we're doing something a little different now, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm really into what we're doing at the moment. You know, I think it's difficult to be so cutthroat with killing off your ideas, but you kind of have to, you know.
For sure, that's absolutely true. So you wrote the first record and the early EPs about Southampton. You wrote the new record about small towns in America. Do you think the next Creeper record will be based on a month spent in lockdown at home? Are you inspired at all by this time to write new material? Like, is this creatively invigorating? Because this is the closest thing to a zombie apocalypse we've ever had, without the zombies, of course. But this is post-apocalyptic type things right now. Are you inspired by that, or does this do nothing for you? Is this just a waiting period?
No, like I feel like no matter what, people who are really into the arts and creativity, I think, are always making things anyway, and no matter what environment you are in, you know, even if you're on like an airplane, like I'm still kind of thinking about things and writing stuff down, coming up with ideas there. So like this is another period of time for me, and it's really scary time at the moment. And you know, my mum works in the NHS over here, and she was retired and she had to come back out into the NHS. So a lot of respect for everybody out there dealing with it. But yeah, my role in this is kind of to try and keep active and keep busy, keep writing songs and keep going. But like I don't think I'd write necessarily about lockdown. I think you're going to end up with a lot of lockdown content coming out soon. I think that's what every band's going to be doing, likely. And I think that like the things I've been working on have been some of separate creative ventures to Creeper. Some are like very Creeper centric too. But I think I already know what we're going to make the next record about. I've already decided that. We've already been working on that. This time period, maybe I'll be making pieces of the next jigsaw in private. But I doubt it would be about the lockdown itself. But yeah, I'm imagining like it's kind of hard for things not to be influenced by this period of time. It's so bizarre, isn't it? Such a strange feeling.
It definitely is. 100% it is. But you touched on the idea that you were working on things outside of Creeper, sort of tangential to Creeper and Creeper lore. Can you give us a taste of what those things are? Are they just like scrap ideas right now? Are they just things that are starting to form? Are they just things jotted down in a notebook? What's the process like that?
Well, yeah, it's a number of different things. I've been trying to work in different media and different mediums for a while. I just wanted to expand what I could do. I didn't want to sit and just make the same thing over and over again, which is part of the reason why I couldn't make the same Creeper record as before, because it's not that person right now. I've been working on this kind of poetry zine for quite some time, which I've been. This is when I think I'm getting closer to it, to finishing it. I'm unhappy with it. I'm going to tear it all up and start again. But you know, when you're working on something new, you know, when you first start playing in bands, like it's like that. You think you got it together, and then it sucks, and then you think you got it together. You never really know. But working on in a completely new medium is, you know, it's difficult and it's challenging. It's fun. So I've been doing that. I've been writing a little book as well, but it's that's kind of top secret. That's something else. So I've been working on that. I've got a couple of little musical things going on too. I've got a lot on my plate at the moment. It's really fun. Like that's the cool thing. And I keep getting approached about doing things. People keep coming up to me and asking me to do stuff recently, which is, you know, it's such a privilege to be in a position where people want you to be involved in their projects. So, whereas when you first start out doing this stuff, you're kind of shoehorning your way into things. And yeah, so it's been cool. I've been approached about a few things recently that I've been really excited about. So yeah, it's kind of, I'm trying out some different things this year. It's kind of scary because sometimes when like musicians make a jumps into, especially like singers, and they make a jump into like a literary world or something like that, it can be a disaster. So notice how I'll get on.
I remember being such a huge MCR fan and just being a diehard, and he announced the Umbrella Academy, and I was like, of course I'm gonna get that, but it's gonna suck. And I got the first issue, and I was like, this is unreal. And like the whole series just destroyed me. Like it really made me rethink who I thought Gerard Way was in a really, really great way. And that dude can't be touched. He's just transcendent.
Oh, he's the best. It's bad about him, man. Like the thing about him is like it's really clear. I always think about that when I think about Gerard Way. I always think it's so clear that he's a fan of all these things. He's not just a guy who's coming in and just trying to write a comic book. He's well read in that and well versed in that world. And you can tell it by when you read the Umbrella Academy. And I think it's the same with his musical output too. You can tell like he's got like he's a real lover of music, and he's not just addicted to he's not just trying to be a rock star. He has been a fan for years, like you and I. And you can see those influences all throughout his work. That's why his music seems so eclectic as well. It's been interesting seeing his demos that he's been releasing recently. Have you been listening to those?
I've been loving those. Like anything Gerard touches, like Gerard Way could just breathe on something, and I would think that was like some sort of masterpiece. Do you know what I mean? Like the Gerard Way signature means a lot to me because it's a stamp of quality. But I need to, you may not accept this, I hope you do, but I think of you in that same light where you're just very much a creative force, and everything that Creeper touches is a stamp of quality.
Well, thank you very much. That's a lovely compliment. That's very sweet.
But going off of that, you were inspired by a lot of different things, and a lot of the earlier Creeper work is an amalgam of different things. I often describe Eternity in Your Arms to friends who I want to listen to it. Misfits meets Meatloaf, and you guys fuse Disney with punk rock in a really, really interesting way. So many elements of Peter Pan that you wouldn't necessarily think that a punk rock band or a very theatrical band would necessarily be able to pull off, let alone elevate. What is something on the new record, what is an idea that people wouldn't expect, that you've integrated and maybe you're pulling off in a different way?
We're doing quite a lot in that, this new one. It's really fun. It's first off, I love that comparison to the Misfits meets Meatloaf. The first time I met Matt Skiba, I introduced myself, and he said, "Oh, you play on that Creeper, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, I hear you sound like Alkaline Trio meets Meatloaf," and I was like, "Yeah." Yeah, like your band of Meatloaf. That's kind of true, and I love that comparison from him. I was like, that's bang on as well. But the new record is been really fun because what we've been trying to do is trying to take some of the more classic sounds of kind of British rock in terms of like kind of glam rock from the 70s, like Mark Bolan and T-Rex and David Bowie, Mott the Hoople and things like that. And also like later on Britpop, kind of Suede and Pulp, you know, and all those the great kind of pomp and swag of those eras, but with threading them through kind of an American needle, so to speak. So it's the way I've been trying to put it recently. And it's got a new spin on it. It's got you know, for example, there are members of the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra playing on some of these songs, which is so like, you know, you can't get much more Hollywood than that, which is so cool. And it was like such a cool experience. But they're often playing along to a song that's, you know, that's kind of very British sounding. You know, it's kind of like an Englishman's commentary on America. Some of it, I suppose, especially in terms of like of how it sounds. There's like some classic Americana on there as well. There's like in terms of like Roy Orbison and Chris Isaac, stuff like that, like that sort of classic country sound that hits in the middle of the record, which is the record's kind of in 3 stages, in 3 acts, and then in the middle there's this beautiful kind of softer side of Creeper you've not heard yet so far. But all the lyrics are kind of inherently ours, kind of boasting romance and the apocalypse and and all of the things that you've come to expect, I suppose. So yeah, it's another form. We had to get to this stage where we were making this record. We had to really completely destroy the band and rethink it and reimagine the whole thing. And it's been scary because you know the first record did us really well, and made us able to travel the world and play all these different sorts of things to all different sorts of people. And so yeah, it's quite difficult to want to smash it all to bits and not just make the same thing again. But I feel like we have enough bands that do that, find that formula that works, and then to stick to that, even if it's not their formula to begin with. They're just doing someone else's thing. I'd rather not be doing that. I'd rather be just, even if we're making something that's kind of outlandish and people don't get, I'd rather be doing that than just repeating myself, you know. So yeah, it's been really fun. Like we're taking a lot of things that are visually as well, cues from David Bowie and The Man Who Fell to Earth and things like that, and lots of nods to Shock Treatment, the famous Rocky Horror Picture Show sequel, in terms of the art direction. And we're doing a lot of different stuff that we've not tried before yet. That our last record was kind of you know, they look the opposites, and because they are, you know, our first record was black, very, very darks and blacks and purples, and this one is bright white on purpose. You know, our last record looks like a brand new record when you hold the sleeve, and this one is supposed to be like weathered on purpose. It's supposed to look like one of your parents' records. We're toying with a lot of cool stuff on this new one. It's been a real trip making it.
That's all so cool. Now, you guys toured America for the first time in 2016. I remember that vividly because you stopped by our offices. It was great.
Yeah.
This new record is, correct me if I'm wrong, but very, very heavily predicated on the idea of America and what America is and exploring small pockets of America, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's all kind of based on our experiences in America. And we spent so much time out there on tour. The last record was about where we'd come from, which is Southampton. That's who we were up to that point. And the record kind of shows where we've been since, and what the record has allowed us to do. And so a lot of that was touring America. And so our experiences, our clashes with the Westboro Baptist Church on the 2017 Warped Tour, you know, after they picketed the event, and then we picketed the picketers, and numerous experiences, like spending so much time in Los Angeles. For me, I spent like months and months and months of my life there on my own, lots of instances, and nights out, like there, and lots of kind of really chaotic points in my life, kind of reflected through conversations and imagery of that time, but also like all of those tours kind of thread into one long thing for me, which was a starting point for where all this began, this album, you know. And I knew we had to make the American record. I knew I wanted to do it. I knew it had to be like Aladdin Sane, the David Bowie record, where he came to America to make that one. And I felt like that was the logical progression for us. After, you know, we spoke a big game before to interviewers about how we were going to mix it up and how we were going to not just do the same thing again. And I felt like that was the most drastic thing we could do, to remove ourselves from our comfort zone of Southampton, where we've made all of our records up to that point, all of our EPs, everything, and try and try. If we're going to make an American record, we had to make it in America, you know. And so by doing it in Hollywood, we were doing it in the shadow of some of our favorite films, and our influences were. Blade Runner was made, you know, on the Warner lot just down the road from where we were recording. And so that was a head trip, stuff like that, you know. All of the visual reference points for our last record were kind of real out in Hollywood. It was really cool. It's definitely our American record. It was the first title for it was American Noir. That was going to be the title at the beginning.
Oh,
but obviously it became.
God. You have to do something with that title. Oh my God, that's so cool. Now, I would argue that protesting protesters is inherently extremely American. But how do you define America? What is American to you?
Well, I'm in love with America. I think I always have been from a young age. It's a very romanticized place in my mind, and I think that this record, you know, reflects that quite substantially. Your country's so big, America's so big. It's it's hard to kind of pinpoint down what America is because my country fits into it a million times over, you know. So like it's hard to put it into words. But so, for example, like Los Angeles, which is a glitzy tourist trap place where like real magic can happen. But then at nighttime, it becomes this kind of darker, kind of a dangerous place, and I find that completely amazing. Like that, really intriguing and fascinating. Like how there's this kind of underlying darkness to some of it. And I found the darkness quite a few times when I was out there. Really, really interesting. I think the current political climate out there is very interesting because it kind of we kind of mirror you now over here. But like over there, it was the how everything is. Everything is show business, even politics is just, I find that amazing and fascinating for me because I've always been in love with show business too. New York reminds me of Manchester in a lot of ways because obviously we've had the bombings in Manchester over here. But like the way that people stick together, I find that amazing about New York. You can tell like when you've got two New Yorkers in a room, like instantly. And I think that's amazing. I think that's such an incredible people, and everyone's so different though, like because it's so big. I have friends in Texas who I speak to all the time who do things with me and Creeper quite a lot, and they're so proud and I think there's really something to be said for that. When you tour America like for 2 months, you see such a variety of people, and I think you do when you tour the UK, you see a variety of people to a degree, but like it's a massive, much more drastic in terms of cultures clashes and the kind of melting pot that is America. I love that. I love the idea of it. I think I maybe have a little bit of an idealized version of America in my head because I've never lived there properly. I've lived there for 6 months, but I've never lived there like for years and years at a time. But I still find myself absolutely in love with the place after all this time. So yeah, they're my experiences. But I do love it, and I found what I found most amazing about my time in Los Angeles was when I would go to nightclubs. Sometimes I'll go on my own at the very beginning, and I made friends really quickly at like golf clubs and things. And I was invited out all the time. People wanted to hang out. People took me to their homes. People, I just thought you just wouldn't get that over here. That's not the culture of England, and that was something that I felt was an incredible thing.
And you hit the nail on the head. Like, there are parts of America that are so different from others. Like Ohio, I've only lived in Ohio my whole life. It's pretty much Mountain Dew and corn, and that's it. And I think there is like a romanticized nature about America in America, like the 70s counterculture movies like Easy Rider, like the guys who went out looking for America and couldn't find it. Like that's such a captivating romantic idea. But where did you find America in your mind? Where did you find that romanticized nature of it? Was it in Los Angeles?
I think there's a few different places that would strike me as being quite formative in terms of how this record reflects America. I think Los Angeles is a major player for me, just because of like the sheer chaos of that state. Like I saw the beauty of like California in general, like the going out to Dunsmuir, which was a place that we parked once on a tour of water parks when we were touring around in that weird school bus thing we were touring in. And we stopped and I found this amazing little place, and I'd never seen anything like it before in my life. We were like, it looked like something from Twin Peaks. And I actually went in Seattle to where Twin Peaks was filmed as well. That would be another one. But like this place Dunsmuir, I was like, there's only mom and pop stores here. There's no there's no the kind of commercialism and the gentrification that seems to have hit every other part of the world does not seem to somehow like just kind of stopped here in this little town. And all the people knew each other when they were walking around, and it was beautiful redwoods everywhere. And then there was like a stream and a train track going through. And I was like, this is like a film. This is crazy. And then I started thinking, what happens out here? What's the big news that happens out here? I was thinking, what's town gossip? And New Orleans is another place that I found to be like a place like full of like magic. Like every time we spent the time there, we always seem to have a day on tour with there. I found that place to be absolutely captivating. We spent some crazy nights out there, meeting people again. Just you meet the wildest people, and you make friends with like such a broad spectrum of people on one evening. Weird magic and the history of New Orleans, I find them fascinating too. I think that kind of threads itself into my subconscious and how I look at it. And my friend from Nacogdoches in Texas took us to a freshwater spring that was out in the middle of this beautiful woodland. And we just swam around down in the spring. You could just drink the water, stuff like that. Like natural splendor and beauty out there, like is just in abundance because there's so much more space. There was one time when we were on tour with Tiger Army, and we had like 3 days off at the end. They were all in Florida for some reason. I don't know why, but we stayed on International Drive in this motel. And normally there's this families with their kids everywhere, you know, and normally that's where you'd stay there. You'd stay there because you go to Disney parks, but we just had nothing to do. So we're like going around these tourist trap kind of like shops, you know, with fake Mickey Mouse plush toys and like living in that kind of like weird tourism. That you have that sort of stuff over here in the UK, but it's like mainly in London, and it's mainly for like the Queen or something like that, or like a red phone box or like a bus or something, to see the outskirts of Disney and spend some proper time there, like seeing the tourism trade and things like that, like people making their living off of selling this bootleg stuff outside of amusement parks there, stuff like that, like stupid little things, but meeting the people who are doing that and spending time there because we were blessed with the ability to spend so much time exploring because of touring. It made us have a completely more in-depth experience than my parents ever would have had, you know. I sort of found this video not so long ago of us on tour with Neck Deep, I want to say, or something like that. And we came back to this hotel, some sort of motel somewhere, like at like, I don't know, some crazy o'clock. And the woman at the desk, there seemed to be like no health and safety rules at this hotel. I was really drunk. And she let us all in the pool. Like, she just let us get in the pool. So we're all like, suddenly we're in the pool, and we were a very chaotic bunch of people when we were there. And so like I got this big hook off the wall with a big, you know, the thing that the lifeguard has to hook people out. And I was trying to hook our guitarist out of the pool, like for fun. But as I was hooking him, I slipped on the floor because there was no lifeguard or anything, because this woman had let all these drunk boys just into this this pool, and Hannah, of course, as well, and boys and girl. And I tried to pull Ollie out of the pool with it, slipped, smashed my head on the floor, like smashed it, like it was like a fucking bang, dude. It was like hard. Everyone went, oh, and then like I just jumped in the pool, and then there's all this blood started pouring from my head all in the pool, and I was like, you would just not have this in England. Like, there would not be a pool in a hotel, for one, in a motel, and two, if there was, the health and safety would be so high they would never let you do that. And yeah, and like I could have fucking died, like like it was just cool. I just had so many formative experiences, so many late nights in weird diners in Hollywood. You know, I've had some of my best times of my life in America so far. So it's been it's a very important place to me.
I think the phrase "outskirts of Disney" should be your autobiography. You had said you were on the outskirts of Disney. That's you in a nutshell.
Yes.
Is there a moment on the new record, musically speaking, that you think one of your bandmates just really surprised you? Is there anything Hannah did that you were just like, I would have never in a million years thought of doing that? Or is there a moment where you think Ian went to the next level? And what is that moment?
Well, there was a point where, when Ian got unwell and could no longer come out to America with me, where he took over the London sessions. There was some London sessions that took place where the band was tracking, and the way that he took over the organization of those sessions was, an amazing surprise. He was like really, really on it and organized. Everyone coming in, everyone coming out, because London is still like an hour and a half from Southampton. It's like 2 hours from Oxford, and like similar sort of way from Brighton as well. Everyone lives over here, and the way he organised it and how meticulous he was with getting things done was a surprise. He had to stay in this awful travel lodge in Ealing Broadway in London all the time, and he hated it because in this travel lodge they don't put like the plug socket by the side of the bed, so you can't touch your phone overnight. So it's to encourage people not to leave their phone charging all night. So anyway, he pushed the entire bed, the double bed, across the room. So it was like, because he was there for so long, he was there for months and months, and so he would just completely redecorate the room every time he was there. So that was amazing. Hannah Hannah came out with me in place of Ian when Ian got sick to do some writing with me this time around, and we didn't get to do. We hadn't really written too much together before this record. And we wrote the song together called 4 years ago, and it was a duet between the two of us. And we wrote that with Zandy Barry, our producer, and it just came out amazing. Like I was absolutely shocked and taken aback by how incredible her voice sounded on it. Like it was one of these things where I was like, well, I want to do like a Nick Cave and a PJ Harvey sort of thing, but like I don't quite know how we're going to do that. I don't know how our voices work together. And then she started singing it, and I thought, oh my God, we've got this. This is going to be fine. This is going to work out great. So she did amazing on that. She also did amazing on a song. I was working on a song called All My Friends, which is the closer on the record. My alcoholism was really out of control at that point in time. And I would stay at the studio after our producer would leave with his assistant Redder. And I would just play the piano and I would just drink and hang out. And I wrote this song one evening that Redder recorded me doing. Hannah heard it, and Hannah was like, we have to do this song. We have to do this song. Really believed in the song and really fought for it. I felt uncomfortable about it at first because it was such a personal song. But she really, really chased it and kept trying to reassure me about it. And then she recorded the piano in London for it, at the Grand Piano in London. Started doing harmonies on top of my vocals and things. And yeah, and so she just kind of took control of that one as well. She's really stepped up on this record in terms of like her involvement with that creative stuff, which has been really cool. Because in the past, when we first met Hannah, she was quite shy, which you would never imagine now. You kind of go, oh, would you mind doing some violin? And then she did some amazing piece of violin on something. Or would you mind coming doing this little bit? And so over time, she's just come out of a shell, and we've been more open to the idea of like letting people into that sacred world where we're kind of locked away writing, which is difficult for us sometimes, for me and Ian, because we're quite precious about the vision. But she stepped up and she did so good. I'm really proud of her. So yeah, both of those times with Ian and Hannah, I was really taken aback about how good they did.
You mentioned that Roadrunner was a little hesitant and they didn't really know what to make of when you said you wanted to kill off Callous Heart. What did your bandmates think? How did they react to the idea of just completely destroying the band and rebuilding it from nothing?
It's real difficult, man, because like I think all of us at that point as well in time, when we did the show, when we cut the band off on stage, like everyone was exhausted. We were all burnt out anyway. Like everyone was like at collapse anyway. We've been doing a lot, and every show we'd done that year was like an arena show as well. We went out with All Time Low. We went out to the main stage Reading and Leeds. That was just crazy. We're doing main stage festivals all summer. So like the vibe was cool, but like it was like when you play those big shows, you don't see anybody's face. You can't. There's not like so. I kind of, to a certain degree, like it became a bit mechanical, which was a weird thing to say. So I was kind of, my head wasn't in the game. I knew I needed a break. We hadn't had a break in 5 years. The first record was made in between touring. So we were burnt out and we needed time away. I definitely needed time away, and Ian was about to get ill. So I think that was it. You know, it was all coincided. We were under a lot of pressure all the time too. We were doing a lot of really high pressure stuff, quite a lot. So I think there was a part of us that felt like really relieved to do it. I think there was a sadness. The show was the weirdest thing in the world. It was crazy, and suddenly like all the press were talking about it, and it was just this big thing. And then to disappear completely again. The big disappearing acts are the hardest things to do, especially in the internet age when people can just snap you doing anything, and it's addiction to social media and the putting out things. That people have. So yeah, it's been tricky. It was a really weird one. So yeah, but I think there was a sadness to it. There was like a weirdness to leave the jackets on stage and to walk out. But at the same time, we needed to. Like I think we wouldn't be a band now if we'd stayed carry on going at the pace we were going. We needed to stop. But if right now we're supposed to be right back and playing gigs. We played a massive London headline show just now that was sold out. Well, we had to postpone till August now, but so we'll get back to it. It's just it's been a little longer than I imagined it was had to be. The
tours got postponed, but come August, is there anything that you're going to rework and really, really dazzle people with?
Well, I had this idea recently that I wanted to integrate into one of the shows, into one of the tours. Sorry, that I'm glad that in a weird way that it's been postponed, because it means I can kind of see that one through. It was one of those times where it was just like, it was right before the tour began, and I was like, oh my God, that if we could get this done in time, that'd be great. But we're doing all sorts of stuff. We're playing with a lot of ideas that we've had in the past in terms of production. But you know what I wish I could repurpose? There was a tour we did over here called the Theatre of Fear, which is one of my favorite tours we've ever done. We had this elaborate facade of this World's Fair that I was obsessed with, the New York World's Fair. So we did our in Southampton one. It had a kabuki at the front of it, but behind it was this big steel mask of the stranger that had lasers coming out its eyes. Anyway, it cost £8,000, that mask, and we used it for 6 shows. so it's 20-foot high steel mask of the stranger who's sat in our lockup somewhere in Southampton. And we had to pay a huge fee to we don't want to get rid of him because none of us will. To get rid of him, but the laser-eyed, he was supposed to be a nod to on the Indiana Jones ride in California, in Disney California, and it was supposed to be a nod to that. And there's obviously the show, if you're familiar with it at all, had a very similar vibe to the Terminator 2 ride in Universal Studios. It was like all these theme park attractions I just sewed into one big patchwork quilt of this gothic nonsense, really. But yeah, so we have a lot of things on our minds. We had this year. I don't know how much of this touring year is going to stay put. Really, like it's kind of difficult to say at this point. No one wants to say anything either because everyone's scared about cancellation fees or postponing tours and things. But we've got to be realistic. Like as soon as we can get back on stage, I'll be looking to pull no punches. Like I'm ready to go. Like so. I'm very excited. Like when we get back to it, like it's going to be some of the best shows we've ever done. We already did a little run with Baby Metal back here in February, I think it was. And in fact, I have my pass here. Underneath all this nonsense, there's the Baby Metal pass. It's actually underneath this book, which is How to Defend Yourself Against Alien Abduction.
Yeah, all the tours that you guys normally go on never make any sense at first, and then you think like, oh wait, yeah, I guess, like Creeper and water parks, a match made in heaven and hell, really. Creeper and All Time Low doesn't make any sense at first, but then you think about it and you're like, yeah, I get it. But is that difficult to book tours with other bands? Like, is that something you're aware of, that you guys can just go into different pockets of rock genres seamlessly in a way that most bands can't? Because there are very few bands in this world who have toured with Tiger Army and All Time Low and Neck Deep. That's just a weird combination, but you guys, it just makes sense for you.
I think it's funny, like Creeper really exists in such a strange position where we never really fit in on any bill, but they're such a strange band. Someone asked me to describe what it was like seeing Creeper a little while back on Twitter, and I said it feels like unwanted cabaret at the pop punk show. Like that's what it feels like sometimes. And the unrequested cabaret is suddenly getting this cabaret. I sometimes remember doing some of those pop punk things and closing with Henley's Ghost and just being like, these kids are really confused as to why we're playing a Rocky Horror Picture Show song at their pop punk show. and I love that too, because you pick people up there that, the misfits and the strange kids, and that's kind of who we are. So I'm comfortable with that. So it's fine to me. But yeah, it's difficult. It's a weird one. Some touring, like the water park tour was amazing. It was so fun. Look at like Awsten is one of my favorite people on this planet. And we had so much fun doing photos on that tour where he was the light and I was the dark. We had all these pictures of us being the mirrors and the mimes and things. That was really fun. And he's been so good to me over the years. He's, he makes so much time for me, and he really does not need to, because he's like a fitness freak. He's really, really on it with health and stuff, and I am just a human wrecking ball. So we complement each other nicely in a way. But yeah, I really love Awsten, and that tour was funny as well, because like suddenly at that point in time in our band's career, we were playing like pretty much exclusively fast songs, and so like. And the show was like kind of visceral and kind of like our driver was like a hardcore kid, and every day he'd run up and like do a flip into the crowd every time we played, regardless of who was there. And these kids hadn't seen that before, so some of them found us quite aggressive, even though the songs are like an elaborate pantomime. I don't, it's very strange. Like it's a really odd one. But all I know is we don't really fit in with any one person, but we always get on better with the misfits of their genres too. So water parks, there's no one else like them. Like they're in their own division, you know, like they're in their own thing, and they're strange as well, just like us. That's why we love them so much. And it's the same with all that stuff. Like Tiger Army is the most popular psychobilly band that psychobilly fans for some reason are snobby about, like, and you know, stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like, I love Tiger Army, they're one of my favorite bands. We listened to them loads actually in this quarantine. But like, I think it happened to a lot of those bands too. Like, I think it happened to like AFI like played with tour with like Offspring and Rancid and Distillers, but like they're all amazing bands, but like they, you know, didn't necessarily fit in there. Then when emo happened, they were getting all the emo tours, you know, they did all sorts of stuff. But that's why they were always so amazing and impressive to me, is that they always managed to do it regardless of who they're in front of. You're much better off being the band that divides people than just being the safe choice, being just another band. That's what I think anyway. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know.
No, I absolutely agree with you. Like, Creeper has in every way challenged their fan base to follow along with the art. Like, just when you think you like Creeper, you guys do something that is just like, wow, that's really different. Do I still like this? And you make people reevaluate. And that's a mark of quality, because when you go away for a year and you're like, we're done, everybody's just like, what the hell? What are we going to do? Do we follow this? Is this over? And it creates interest. What is the next thing that Creeper will be doing to challenge their fans' idea of who Creeper are? I
think that all those points are so important as well, is just to keep people on their feet. I think you're rewarded for like sticking with us too. Like, you know, like I feel like you might like it's difficult. It's a hard life being a fan of this band. Like we're a harder band to stand than like any band, because sometimes we just decide we don't want to be on the internet and we just disappear. Then you don't hear from us for ages. Then we'll appear again under an elaborate guise of something completely ridiculous, and but we'll come back, and you might not know we've come back, and then you might think we're coming back, but we're not. But we left a clue in something else. You have to work hard, you know. But like, if you get there, if you can stick with it, like I do think it's fun, and you get more out of it than other projects. But what the thing we're doing next, like we're you know, my brain at the moment is thinking ahead as it always is. But my focus right now is on making sure I deliver something amazing with this record, with these shows, and I'm storytelling, and I'm doing it to the best of my ability, and I'm providing that escape and immersion. I think when we come out of this, we've spent a long time in isolation, being with our eyes pinned in the news, being very much in the real world in our own homes. I think we're going to want entertainment and escapism and showmanship again, and that's all the stuff that I believe in, and that's the kind of the world that we work in. We often talk about Creeper being like an entertainment brand rather than a band sometimes, you know, like where it's like it's all these multi-platformed things, and music is one division of it, but it comes in a lot of different formats. And I'm hoping that we can kind of really do that for people and be there. Like I think when we come out, like the cosplay at the shows and the interaction with our fans and our audience and singing together again. I think that stuff's that I'm really important. It's really important to me. And making an escapism that you can walk into and be in for a little while is really, really important. Much new elements that you've not seen before from us with these shows coming up with the rest of this record. This record is very, very different. It is massively challenging to our existing audience. Probably the most challenging thing we've done for them. We're really, really proud of it. We made something really different, and we tried to be bold and drastic with it. So yeah, they're into it for a lot of challenge, I think, coming up. But we'll see how they do.
I cannot wait for May 29th. I'm very, very excited for this record. Definitely one of my most anticipated personal records of the year. Can't wait for it. Will, I appreciate your time so much. Is there anything else you want to add?
I hope that everybody watching at home is staying safe and staying inside. Remember how important that is. It's not just about our health, it's about other people around us. And I know that our audience has always been a very considerate bunch and empathetic bunch. So like, stay inside, stay healthy, and we'll all be together soon. And America and Canada will be back over as soon as we can get out of this situation. And anyone else from the rest of the world, we're coming for you slowly. We've got plans. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you for having me and taking the time today. It's been nice chatting to you.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to bring that 8-foot stranger laser head.
To America.
Bring it to America. Just bring it here, leave it here, no one will.
I know. I was thinking maybe if we just set it up in Las Vegas somewhere, no one will question it, and we'll just walk away and just leave it there.
There you go. Just on Mount Rushmore, just a giant stranger. It'd be perfect.
That equates to about like what is that? About 10 grand in US dollars. You know, like I don't know how much shipping it there would cost. It's 20 foot. We had next to the other presidents on Mount Rushmore. Maybe that's the move there. Just to leave them there, so people don't say anything.
I love it. Just Mount Rushmore.
You can just take it to your house. We'll leave it.
Please send it over. Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I appreciate it.
Not at all. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate that, dude.
Can't wait to hear the record, man.
Thank you, mate. See you later, Bobby.